is 8:04. You're here, I'm here. So let's go ahead and let's get going. So, welcome to our presentation. My name is Andrea Miller. I'm the founding board member and the executive director from Center for Common Ground. Next slide. We have a very simple mission here. Center for Common Ground was founded to educate and empower underrepresented voters in voter suppression states to engage in elections and advocate for their right to vote. Together, we can build a democracy that prioritizes the voices of all people. Now, today, we had a major setback in DC, although we were expecting it. H.R. 22, the SAVE Act, passed the U.S. House of Representatives, and it is on its way to the Senate. So we have a call to action, which we will be sharing with you in the chat, that will now be directed to our senators rather than your House member. Now, we had an interesting situation arise with the vote today. One of there were 4 Democrats who voted yes on this terrible SAVE Act, and there were a few more that we were worried about. As a matter of fact, there was one down in North Carolina who voted for the SAVE Act in 2024. And he said he was going to definitely vote for it again in 2025. Now, that representative is the representative from North Carolina, won the North Carolina Black Belt. So yesterday afternoon, I called our board member, Rodney Sadler, who then called Reverend Barber, and apparently Reverend Barber called him because Don Davis did not vote yes on the SAVE Act. So pressure and a little extra pressure apparently really worked. So the fight now moves to the Senate, and I will keep everybody informed about where we are. Next slide. Yes. 2024, I always like people to know, especially if you're new, that we do a lot of work as activists. So in 2024, we sent 4.5 million postcards. We made 3.5 or sent 3.5 million text messages and made 2.5 million phone calls to Black voters in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Florida, and we did some work in Texas. Next slide. We had tremendous success on April 1st with the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Wisconsin, even though it is not a southern state, has been a voter suppression state since 2010, courtesy of their former governor, Scott Walker. So we engaged in the 2023 Wisconsin Supreme Court race, and we decided, because there are 97,000 Black voters, most of them in the city of Milwaukee, that we would go ahead and engage this year. So we had a wonderful race. Judge Susan Crawford won by more than 200,000 votes, so it wasn't even close. So a big win for democracy in that race. People turned out and voted, and they had a significant voter higher turnout than they did in the 23 election. And so next slide. Now we move on to my home state in Virginia. Now, the primary election for Virginia will be on June 17th, and the general will be November 4th. Right now, there is no gubernatorial primary. I need to update that slide. So the governor primary, there will not be one. There will be a primary for lieutenant governor, and there will be a primary for attorney general. The Republicans don't have a primary, but the Democrats do. The entire Virginia House of Delegates is up for re-election. Currently, there are 51 Dems and 49 Republicans. So we have a one vote majority in the House of Delegates. When we look at the primary election, there are 5 Republicans who have primaries, and there are 14 Democrats. Next slide. Right now, one of the things that is going to make the Virginia election very, very fascinating is Virginia has the second highest number of federal employees. The number one state with federal employees is California. And now, while most people think, oh, the federal employees are in Northern Virginia, that is not true. There are 42,000 in Hampton Roads, Oceanside. There are 64,000 in Central Virginia. Think Richmond, Charlottesville, Fredericksburg. There are 12,000 federal employees down in Southwest Virginia, and Roanoke, Virginia is in the House. And yes, Northern Virginia did win with 109,000. So there are a total of 235,469 federal employees. I am going to drop a link in the chat. The Economic Policy Institute did a study, and they produced a document where you can look up the number of federal employees in all 50 states, and then they break it down by congressional district, and they also break it down by county. All right, next slide. All right, this is what we're looking at for governor. Virginia is going to make history in November because there are 2 women that are running for governor. Abigail Spanberger, the former congresswoman from the Virginia 7th District, and Winsome Sears, who is currently the lieutenant governor. This will be a fascinating race because Virginia, for the first time, will elect a woman candidate. There are 2 women running. None of the other candidates that previously had been trying to run collected their signatures. Now, both candidates want to really overperform. Winsome Sears turned in 19,000 signatures of voters who wanted to see her on the ballot. Abigail Spanberger turned in more than 40,000. And so officially, the race is on. Next slide. Lieutenant governor. This is not the one I was hoping for. All right, I'll use this one. This will do. Lieutenant Governor. We have three Republicans that are running. They all made the ballot. Next slide. Um, uh, all right. Oh, sorry. There are two Republicans who made the ballot. There were 7 Democrats. There are only 6 that made the ballot. And it's very, very interesting when you look at the diversity that we see on the Democratic side running for lieutenant governor. Next slide. Attorney General. So the incumbent Attorney General, Jason Myers, is running for reelection. And we have a primary between Jay Jones and Shannon Taylor. So our lieutenant governor and our attorney general, they will be in the June 17th primary. We will not see the gubernatorial candidates until the actual election in November. Next slide. Now, in terms of the House delegates, there are 100 seats in our House of Delegates. The Senate is not up for reelection at all, only the Virginia House. Currently, there are 51 incumbent Dems based on the quality of the candidates running. And many of these candidates ran in 2023 and were not successful. The quality of the candidates, the improvements that they've made in the campaign, the number of Black voters in their district, the number of workers in their district. My projection is 9 new House of Delegate seats in the Virginia House, bringing our total to 60 seats. Next slide. Now, Virginia in 2024 had 869,000 Black voters. That number has increased. In 2025, there were 920,000 registered Black voters. So whenever we look at numbers, we are looking at registered voters who, if the election was held tomorrow, they could go and they could vote in it. Next slide. Now, as I said, the primary is going to be on June 17th, and there are 100 seats. I have the whole Virginia General Assembly there. So on the left, the Virginia House, 51 Dems, 49 Republicans, and the Virginia Senate, 21 Dems, 19 Republicans. So in the Virginia Senate, we are 2 seats ahead. Next slide. That's 3 seats. All right, here are the target districts. Our target districts, there is no primary in this district, is in Petersburg. In 2023, this was a $6 million Virginia State House race. Kimberly Pope Adams lost by 83 votes in a district that is 46% Black. That election in 2023 was known as the Battle of the Kimberleys because both candidates, Kim Taylor and Kimberly Pope Adams, they're both Kimberleys. Next slide. Emporia, HD 83. The person running in that seat, actually her name is Mary Person, ran in 2023. So again, with the pushback, backlash resistance turning into resilience, we are going to be working toward a positive change. Um, this is based on the fact that it was a former Democratic seat and the district is 38% Black with proper turnout. This district could be one of the districts where we see a change in representation. Otto Waxman has only held the seat. This would be his second term. Next slide. This is my district. It is predominantly in Spotsylvania and Caroline. Bobby Orrick has held that seat for 30 years. I'm guessing 90% of the people who live here, maybe more, have never seen Bobby Orrick and have no idea what his name is. The candidate that's challenging him currently serves on the school board in Spotsylvania. Spotsylvania is a very tough county, formerly incredibly rural, becoming more urban with 5 huge apartment developments that have come in. This is a very, very hardworking candidate who's also working with down ballot candidates, running against a man who really hasn't probably in 26 years. This is going to be an interesting race. Next slide. She's on the school board, so I don't know if she is holding town halls yet. There is no primary in that district. One of the things you want to be careful about doing is doing things too soon. So probably in the summer, that's when she's going to start the town halls. Where's Bobby? Has anybody seen Bobby? All right, now, another target district, House District 22. This is in Northern Virginia. In 2023, Elizabeth Guzman, then a delegate, decided she wanted to run for Senate against kind of a dino, and she lost by 50 votes. She is now running for delegate. And again, when we look at this district, the former candidate who had never been elected before got 47.58% the vote. So Ian Lovejoy has only been in for one session. So this is another very, very interesting race to see how we do with that race. Next slide. Stafford, House District 64. Paul Mildy was elected in 2023. He is running against a new candidate who is a powerhouse. She is a veteran. She is a mom. She is a foster mom. She is civically engaged. The candidate on the other side of the county, Reverend Josh Cole, they are working together. This district had a turnout problem in 2023. And the previous candidate lost by 1,328 votes. When we look at the district, there are more than 10,000 possible votes that could swing this district. So we will be working to make sure we turn out that vote. Next slide. Montgomery County. This is a rural county down in Southwest Virginia. Basically the gateway to Appalachia. It really is an Appalachia. Um, in 2023, candidate Lily Franklin lost by 183 votes. Lily is the former legislative director to Delegate Sam Razul, who is literally in the next district over. Lily is an excellent candidate. He is an amazing um, fundraiser, and we are delighted to see Lily back again. She was born and raised in the district, and very, very much person in the district. One of her goats had a baby, and it was very, very young, and she was concerned about would the mother take care of the baby. So a good deal of her campaign down in that very rural district consisted of her driving around with a baby goat in the back of her truck. Next slide. Now, Chesterfield. I formerly lived in Chesterfield County, and that is the third largest county in Virginia. Leslie Maida ran for Congress in the congressional district CD1. She was the highest Democratic vote getter in that congressional district. She is now running for Virginia. Mr. Woodford is running. He hasn't raised any money yet, doesn't have a particularly strong website. So in the primary, we expect Leslie will probably win it. Now, in 2023, Herb Walk, who was the candidate, got 45.40% of the vote. Herb raised $12,000. Herb is nearly 80 years old, and he ran so that there would be a candidate name opposing the other party. So if Herb can get that kind of vote, it should be amazing to watch a really dedicated, energetic candidate take on that district. Next slide. Henrico. Henrico County is another central Virginia county. It is slightly to the north of Chesterfield County. This is the only Henrico seat that is not held by a Democrat. There is a primary in this district. Now, in 2023, the then candidate, Susanna Gibson, got 48.77% of the vote in spite of a huge scandal. So we are thinking a candidate who can manage to run scandal-free should be able to take this district. It is a fairly wealthy district. It has a county budget of nearly $1 billion. So this is going to be an interesting race to watch. Next slide. Another Chesterfield County district. This is House District 75. Originally, it was a two-person primary. Lindsay Dougherty got in literally at the last minute, and it is now a three-person primary. In 2023, Stephen Miller Pitts was the candidate, and he got 46.97% of the vote. Lindsay Dougherty ran against Kerry Coyner in 2019 in the old district, and the new district is now more favorably drawn. Let's see who ends up winning the primary. Next slide. Another primary, House District 89 in Chesapeake. Now, the Virginia Beach Democracy Center is literally right next door to the city of Chesapeake. There is no incumbent running for that seat. So this is an open seat. And oops, I have an incorrect. Lindsay Dougherty was the previous slide. Now, the previous candidate, Karen Jenkins, in 2023, lost that race by 436 votes. Again, we will see who wins the primary, but again, this is very much a seat that is in play. Next slide. And those are our main seats that we're looking at that potentially, because as I said, the candidates that are running, the margins that were lost by in 2023, this could be this change with Virginia, the former capital of the Confederacy, elects its first woman governor, and then not only maintains the margin in the House, but increases it dramatically. All eyes on Virginia for this race. Now, I always go over a couple of tools that everybody should know about just for your own information. CFCG.news active vote. So every upcoming race that is coming up, including if your next race is 2026, who we know might be running, on the officials section of Active Vote, it will tell you every elected official. And I like to say White House to outhouse, who is currently elected in your various districts. So it goes from federal down to state, down to city, county. You have an option under questions to participate in polling. And then bills will show you every bill that has been introduced in your state house. And you have the ability to then say, yes, I would support that bill. And then it shows you your current electeds. Did they vote yes or did they vote no? So a good way of learning what are my current electives doing with bills that are in my state house. Next slide. Every year we produce the Virginia early voting list because the Virginia Board of Elections does not produce a list where all of the early voting locations for all 133 counties are in one place. Since Virginia will have Saturday voting in every county, they refer you to the page where you're looking at the registrars. Registrar offices are not open on Saturday. The Virginia early voting list tells everybody when the offices are open Monday through Friday, and then it also gives their Saturday hours. And some of our jurisdictions will have one day of Sunday voting, and that will be listed as well. So whatever organization you are with, even if you are not working directly with Center for Common Ground, make sure that your organization knows we produce the comprehensive list of all the early voting locations in Virginia. Now, what we have found for the primary is that a number of our large counties, Chesterfield included, are only opening one early voting location instead of utilizing their registrar office and all their libraries. So they have assured us that the general, all of the early voting locations will be open. And what I am looking at is this is probably them responding to the loss of funds that they are anticipating. So they are trying to hang on to their money. Next slide. We have already launched our postcards campaign, and I sent 30,000 additional addresses because all of our addresses were gone. So if you would like to postcard with us, we are writing to registered Black voters who did not vote in 2023. That was our last state only election. In the new names that I'm adding in, I'm actually going to Black voters who did not vote in 2024 to come up with extra addresses. In the general, it will be my goal that all 919,860 Black voters at least get a postcard, but this is the primary. Next slide. Our phone banks are up, and our very first phone bank is up in Virginia Beach. So if you have made calls for us before, please feel free to click on that link, make calls to Virginia Beach. That will open up our phone bank. If you've already made calls, just put in your email address and you can begin making calls. Our phone banks are open daily from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., and that's all 7 days a week. We will also be having, we call them national guided phone banks. And so you see the button join a phone bank event. We utilize PDI. You call from your computer. We provide a phone number, and our phone banks are very, very easy to use. If you like technology and you've never phone banked with us before, you can always watch our training video and then go ahead and start making phone calls. And so, thank you very, very much for listening to me and hearing about how Virginia and really give us an opportunity for a huge, huge win in November for the people, for democracy, for decency. And I never thought I would really like the fact that Virginia has an election every year and our state elections are in years. But it does give us some protection from this SAVE Act because this SAVE Act is only for federal elections. And so on odd numbered years, we do not have elections. Again, I believe we will this SAVE Act in the Senate. All right. Questions?
So we had a question earlier, sorry, about what is the strategy of writing postcards for the primary?
Pardon?
Sorry,
What is the strategy?
yeah, what was the reason to do postcards in Virginia before the primary? What is the strategy?
Oh, we didn't used to really get involved in primary elections. And then what we discovered is most Black voters did not vote in primaries because most Black voters had no idea what the purpose of a primary election was. And we then discovered that if we could get inconsistent voters to vote in a primary, we had a 70 plus percent chance that they would then go and vote in the general because they were vested in it. So that is why we get involved in primaries. Center for Common Ground, we are just asking voters to vote. We are not telling them vote for candidate A, vote for candidate B. We're just saying there's a primary election, go out and vote. And the elections that I showed you are, this is where we think at the end in November, we will have made a very positive difference in Virginia. Right now, Virginia has some of the most progressive voting laws of any state in the union. We've got 45 days of early voting. We have already passed two constitutional amendments, one for restoration of voting rights on release from prison, and the other bill for the right to an abortion. We need to pass that again in the 2026 legislative session, which will begin in January. And that will then go, those two amendments will then go to the voters as a ballot initiative.
Didn't see any other
Next
questions.
question. Yes, there will be texting.
Looks like Mary has their hand raised. I will enable people to unmute. So Mary, go ahead. You should be able to unmute now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm with the League of Women Voters in Bradenton, Florida, and we work in Florida in general. And recently we had a decent showing for the Democratic Party, which was very good. But I have always felt that if we actually go into the African American churches, go into the Hispanic community, community centers, actually go in one, and not one-to-one, but one to a community and speak to these people, that we could have some influence and help them navigate the way to vote and exercise their right. What do you think of that? It sounds like you are not doing that there and having some success.
Is
I could be wrong,
exactly what we do. We have democracy centers that are in the Black community. Three of our democracy center leaders are here tonight. They work directly with the churches. They work with food banks. They work with wherever voters are who may have given up on voting because they're going, it doesn't change my life one way or the other. And we have had phenomenal success by helping voters see or talking to voters and finding out what is important to them, what changes would make life better for their family and for their community. We also are looking at Black voters in low-income communities as being the first and worst impacted by a lot of these changes that are going on in Washington, D.C. And we are ramping up mutual aid program. So that is exactly what we do. So yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. Anne.
Oh, thank you very much. I wanted to know if there are specific postcarding opportunities for the primaries in Virginia?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. And I'm going to drop a link in the chat. I got to spell everything right now because I want that link to be clickable for you. That is, oh, thank you. It's actually, well, either one of them works. You can go there now. Our postcarding is very special. Our postcards have been designed for Black voters. So you must use our postcards. You would then contact your regional organizer and let them know how many addresses you want. They will get you the addresses. So yes, I just added 30,000 addresses because all of our addresses were already taken. There are 30,000 more, and I can have more. Yes, our postcards work. So remember, with postcards, there are two things about postcards. Number one, what is the image on the postcard? And number two, what is the message on the postcard? Are you giving voters any meaningful information, or are you just telling them to vote for candidate A on this date? That is not meaningful. That is not useful. Let me pop over to our website and see if we still have the hour impact, and we do. So you can go right to our website. So many people have asked that question. So our impact on postcards, we increase Black voter turnout. So there was a 7.6% increase in Black voter turnout during the 2024 Virginia general election compared to non-postcarded voters within the same group. And remember, we won in Virginia in 2024. We were the only Southern state that won. There was a 4.9% increase in Black voter turnout during the 2024 Georgia general election compared to non-postcarded voters within the same group. So yes, postcards work. The other reason postcards are very important is we do not have a phone number for every voter, but we do have an address for every voter. Postcards are very important in rural, since realistically you can't canvass in rural areas. In Virginia, we have county fairs. We can sometimes go to county fairs, but postcards work. Thank you for that question. And as I said, we've been asked so many times, we actually put it on our website.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
So
All
we
right.
had a question in the chat
Yeah.
from Mary Claire. It looks like there are 8 target races in the VA. Will you be setting up phone banks and for the general election? Will we do anything for the general?
Most definitely, we will be doing a lot for the general election. Now, in Virginia, there is Center for Common Ground. We are a C3. So when we do voter outreach, we are just telling people where they can vote, when they can vote, and talking about the issues they told us were important to them. We have another sister organization, National Women's Political Caucus, that currently is endorsing women candidates. We have a lot of women running for was in Virginia. For the women who receive our endorsement, our non-faith partners and people who prefer doing more. We want to name one candidate and kind of remind people they want to vote over there. The C4 is useful for that. So those folks will work on the National Women's Political Caucus of Virginia's side. So we separate our work. We have our nonpartisan side where it is purely voter turnout. And then we have our endorsed C4 side where it names a candidate and says we have endorsed them. So yes, both sides will be running during the primaries and both sides will definitely be running totally separate websites. No, they're not the same during the general election.
And Fran had a question about voter outreach for the governor's race.
That will be in November. We use something that we call Power Packs in 2023. And so we will use Power Packs again in 2025. And again, remember the Power Pack is going to be over on the C4 side. So we will talk to people about Abigail Spanberg as governor, and then who the lieutenant governor is. And we will do all 4 candidates that people will be looking at: governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and then their own delegate. The SAVE Act does not apply, even if they pass it, to Virginia state elections. The SAVE Act is federal election law. It can only impact federal elections. So imagine the confusion in states where their federal elections and their state elections are on the same date. There will be some people who can't vote in the federal elections, but they can vote in the state elections. Imagine the complete and total confusion and chaos. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you always get, I'm going to correct the one slide where I realized I made a mistake. Yes, we partner with Vote Riders, and they help people get their birth certificates. Obtaining a birth certificate for someone who's born in rural America can be very tricky. There were so many old courthouses that burned down and they lost all of their records. So that is going to be interesting. That normally ends up costing somewhere between $40 and $60 to end up getting a birth certificate, a certified copy of your birth certificate for anyone. So Vote Riders will work with that. You can obtain the, Val, I'm answering all your questions. You had a couple of them. You can obtain the physical postcards through the website. We do not include postage, no. And yes, we can work with Vote Riders. In order to get a passport, and they're very expensive, they're at least $35 on top of whatever you had to pay to get, if you're a man, your birth certificate. And again, look what they did to women. If you are a woman, you're married and you changed your name, now you've got to produce your marriage license. So again, all those documents cost money. No states, cities, or counties provide them for free. So yes. if it looks as though they will be able to pass the SAVE Act, one of the big things we will have to do is help educate people on how you help other people get those documents. The other thing that the SAVE Act would change is voter registration drives and online voter registration will be a thing of the past. It will no longer exist. So, absolutely horrible. Right. Yes, I love that. We are not going to. Warner is a no vote on the SAVE Act. Warner voted foolishly on Lake and Riley. Warner is a no vote on the SAVE Act.
There's one question from Twyla. Will I need to change my married name of 43 years back to my maiden name if the SAVE Act passes?
You are willing and able to get a passport? No. So, in order, now, remember, if you want to get on an airplane, you must have real ID in order to fly. A real ID requires the same documentation as a US passport. So, if you were thinking of getting a real ID, all right, it's more money out of your pocket, but you've got what you need to get a passport. I just got my passport last week. I had one in 1997, but it had been expired for 17 years because I was foolish enough to change my name when I got married. I had to go get a passport. Yes. Oh, and thank you for information on the April 19th rallies and for all of you who attended the Hands Up rally on April 5th. Thank you very, 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 very much. So the rallies are great. They make you feel good. They let you get some out energy up. But the resistance must create positive action going forward. So again, fighting against this SAVE Act and creating a win for Virginians in Virginia. These are all very positive things that move us forward. So again, I am imagining a week after the election when he who shall not be named in Washington is looking at Virginia, who now has a woman governor, probably will have a Black lieutenant governor, and will probably have a Black attorney general, and will have elected all these women to the Virginia State House. We will be diversity, equity, and inclusion. Virginia will be the poster child, and we'll just be going, hey, how you doing up there? It's us down here in Virginia. Woman-led, community of color-led. Hey.
Andrea, there are a couple more questions up there. How do we know that Mark Warner is a no? Because Indivisible is concerned about him. That's one question.
I got a letter from Mark Warner. I've known Mark for years. And he said, I'm not voting yes on this SAVE Act. I don't know where people got the idea that I'm going to.
Yes.
Please stop saying that.
Great. And another question, per the SAVE Act, do people have to re-register with documents or just new registrants?
All right, now with the SAVE Act, if you move or any way, shape, or form need to update your voter registration, you will need to produce proof of citizenship. In states that are Republican trifectas, your state house will probably produce a law that says everybody has to re-register and provide proof of citizenship. Correct. Yes, Real ID does require divorced people to document your previous names. Yes. Luckily, my first marriage was just annulled. We were like, well, he forgot to divorce his first wife, so it was like, all right. But yes, Real ID is also not sufficient, weirdly enough, to be a document you can use to prove citizenship. Because when they originally conceived of Real ID almost 20 years ago, they were not thinking of it as proof of citizenship. So there are only 5 states where on their Real ID, they put on the city of your birth and the country of your birth. The other 45 states are non-compliant with what the SAVE Act requires. So I talked to our attorneys about that. Yeah.
And just as an FYI, to learn more about the SAVE Act, there are a lot of really good resources through the Brennan Center, for example, that kind of will dive into what the SAVE Act would mean and the different impacts it could have. I'll make sure to share one or two of those resources in the follow-up email. I'll also share a sample script that you can use when calling your senators in the follow-up email, because I saw a question about that.
Look at this. We are literally right on time. So again, I am going to thank you all so very much for coming. And I am always so delighted to get to spend time with people who are as excited as I am about voting rights, democracy, and all that entails. Everyone, have a marvelous rest of your evening, weekend, and I'll see you canvassing postcards, making phone calls, or texting. Take care. Good night.